In this compelling episode of She Decides, I sit down with Dr. Tenia Davis, bestselling author, Ph.D. in value-driven leadership, and powerhouse C-suite executive with over 2 decades of experience in transforming teams and organizations. Known for her servant leadership approach and commitment to building cultures where everyone can thrive, Dr. Davis shares what it means to lead with realness, courage, and purpose. From practical tools for empowering multi-generational teams to hard-earned lessons in the boardroom, Dr. Davis unpacks the principles behind her acclaimed books and the leadership philosophy that fuels her success. This episode is a masterclass in owning your voice, lifting others as you rise, and making an impact that lasts. Because when she decides to lead with purpose, she redefines what leadership looks like. Welcome, everybody, to our next episode of She Decides. I am your host, Staci Swiderski, and I'm thrilled to introduce our guest, Dr. Tenia Davis. And she is an amazing, you are an author and you're an accomplished C-suite executive. And we're really, really thrilled and excited to learn more about you today.
Thank you.
Of course, of course. So I'd like to start off, if you don't mind, if you can just share an introduction of what your day-to-day looks like. What do you do? Tell the listeners more about you.
Yeah. Well, let's see. There's
You're
a
like,
lot.
where do I start?
Where do I start? I'm a mom, a wife, and I'm a executive at a research organization. I'm an author, and so my day is busy. When
I bet.
I close one laptop, open another laptop, and trying to pursue every dream that I have and every ambition, whatever I can dream, I'm trying to execute it. And I
That's
have two
incredible.
daughters, and so that takes on a life of its own because, of course, when they call, the world stops.
Uh,
Yeah,
that's right. Like your stuff does not matter anymore. It's
does
about
not even
them.
matter, right? One wants to save the world, and one wants to run it. So
How old are your daughters?
I have a daughter that's a senior in college, and then my other daughter is 31.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my
So
gosh. You look like you're not even
oh,
31. Wow.
I am.
You look
Let me
amazing.
tell you, 58, I feel it. But,
Oh
it's
my
just
gosh.
really exciting. When I kind of look back at kind of that journey, it's like my days have always been busy with something, right? And so
Yeah.
the newest addition to my list of things to do is around being an author and trying to showcase what I'm so passionate about and around servant leadership and just leadership development overall. So there's a lot. There's a lot.
You got a lot going on. You
A
got a
lot.
lot going on. So
Yes.
let's talk about that. You're an author and you received a recognition, right? At was it the Book Fest Awards, right? You like
Yes.
on three different categories, I believe,
Yes.
right?
It was exciting. Just even
That's
be
incredible.
recognized. I was so surprised, and I said, "Wow, people do care about what I'm writing about." But I think it's just really interesting the whole process of being an author. It was my first time, and a lot of the work came out of my dissertation, and I've seen amazing leadership, and then I've seen leadership that not so amazing. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in things that people do well, and I tried to capture all of that in one reading session and not make it boring or like, oh my gosh, 2 pages or why. So I want to make it entertaining as well as
Sure.
information that people could use and start using right away. So
Right, so it really resonated with as many people as possible,
as
right?
possible. Yes.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, that's, you clearly are very, incredible and accomplished and successful and all that amazing stuff. So I would love to ask you a few questions. I know that the listeners would love to learn more from you. So you've spent 20 years building and leading transformative workplace cultures. And what originally drew you to the intersection of leadership and values?
So quite a few things. I mean, I've always wanted to be purpose driven,
Mhm.
and as I mentioned, I've worked with leaders that I deem to be just phenomenal, and whether they're transformational leaders, inspirational leaders, or both, or servant leaders, I learned the most from that leadership style. And so when I look at company culture and when I look at the long game of a company culture, it tends to have a foundation of leaders that really care about their employees, that invest in their development, mentor, inspire to
Mm-hmm.
some degree. And, I call it the long game because what it does, it teaches and develops along the way. And before you know it, you have new leaders
Right.
with with the same behaviors and characteristics that can also help the organization to continue to grow, right? And,
Right. Right. Right.
the old saying, people don't leave, the company, they leave the managers, and a lot of that is true.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for a long time, organizations have always been taught, profit, 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 and no matter what, do as I say. And the workforce today is just different,
It's
and
so different, right?
it's so different, and it takes a different leadership style to really help people develop and grow.
Right. And to really focus on more the values driven
Yeah,
leadership style, I
yeah,
think is, yeah. Because I feel like if you definitely treat the staff
hmm,
with, with that value, them being heard, I mean, it's gonna really naturally improve the
right.
numbers, right? And the processes, and so, yeah, I think again, I feel that the remote world when that remote world really started to settle,
Hmm.
do you feel like as well, like a little bit of the leadership kind of shifted?
I do, because the employees are wanting more of the humanity
Yes,
in
yes.
leaders. They're wanting to see authenticity where those words were not used 10, 20 years.
Right.
And so I think the needs are different.
Mhm. Yes.
People are wanting to connect. They're wanting to trust you, believe you, and wanting to know that you value them for whoever they are, right? So everybody needs
Right.
to show up in the essence of their authenticity, right? And that's just a different interaction.
And being able to be trusted,
Absolutely.
and working independently more
Right.
so, as more people are working remotely and they're not in the office, they're not clocking in, clocking out, right? So, yeah, and being seen more as an individual, right?
Yeah.
And bringing, yeah, their best game, right? But
Exactly.
independently.
Yeah. Bring all the superpowers together,
Bring
right?
it all out. Yeah, that's we all want it. We want to see that, right?
Exactly.
So your PhD, basically say is in values driven leadership. It's really your focus, right? How does that approach differ from traditional leadership models, and why is it so essential today? And I think we were really kind of segueing into that. Um,
Yeah, I wouldn't say so much is so different, but it does have a stronger emphasis around, how people are valuing each other, right?
right.
And so if I'm looking at my team as a team and not just picking individuals that I'm comfortable with, but I'm really looking at the team as a whole, and how do I engage and get the best out of everyone, right? I think that's kind of the foundation where people feel they have equal footing to contribute and be part of the greater good.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Like you said too, and just be heard and being, looked at more as a human, as a person who really is giving, their ideas and sharing their ideas and being part of, like, they're just being heard.
yes,
And
absolutely.
I think they really appreciate that. So in a really a world of burnout and turnover,
Hmm.
I think that definitely is, we're seeing a lot of turnover these days. Um, what's one thing that you feel that leaders are consistently missing when it comes to building a thriving workforce?
I think leaders, and I won't use it as an overarching
Or
state.
even managers. I think sometimes like people confuse, like I feel like anybody can really be a leader, right?
I I
Versus
think
a man.
I think it's easy to judge. It's easy
Yeah.
to have biases, and I think it's always helpful to the organization to be open to different opinions, different approaches. Um, that tends to provide an open door for individuals to interact. And so I don't know if it's missing in an overarching way, but I do see, especially in this climate, It's easy to rush to judgment. And so,
Mhm.
to answer your question directly, I would say what's missing is benefit of the doubt and grace.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and grace. Yeah, for sure. So your book, the 8 Essential Steps to Inspire Others,
Mhm,
is, full of just actionable strategies.
mhm,
What's the very step you recommend to someone wanting to become a better leader?
mhm. Listen,
Mm,
listen. It's easy to, we're always in a pace of racing and moving around quickly. But sometimes people just want to be heard and understood, right? Might not always agree. I think we're in such a polarized state right now that there's a rush to be right and someone needs to be wrong,
mhm.
versus we both can be right and maybe say it differently, right? But there's a race to be right and wrong.
That is really a good takeaway. And I also believe too that, when somebody is a good communicator, the
Hmm.
majority of that is listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, listening is, yeah, because people want to be heard, right? So if you're, you meet somebody at, say, an event and, everybody's, introducing
Yes.
themselves to one another. I think 9 times out of 10, you see more people that are doing the talking,
Yes.
right? But if you're somebody that is really just listening and taking it in, I think that sometimes is outshines, the others.
I agree. I agree.
Yes. So
I
definitely listening. I agree with that one for
I agree.
sure. So as you can see, I have so many questions here for
That's
you.
okay.
And I think it's going to be so helpful for everybody who is actually listening or watching, both. Okay. So you talk about servant leadership in your work.
Mhm,
What does that mean to you personally?
mhm,
And how can women embody that style while still standing firmly in their power?
mhm. It's a tricky balance. I've been told that I have a strong presence and I'm always aware of it. Sometimes uh, it works, and then sometimes I have to dial it back for the audience. Um,
It's like knowing your audience too, right?
just knowing your audience, but sometimes here's what I will say. I think it's important for everyone to feel that they can show up and be 100% of who they are. And so when you ask someone, I like that 80% of you, but that 20%,
I'm
maybe
not so sure about.
not so sure about, hold it back a little bit. You know,
Yeah.
it really hinders, I think, the greater good of the environment, because you want everyone to feel that they can show up as 100%, right? And then there's also the learning of how to navigate and work with different styles. And so I do think it's important for people to show up strong. Servant leadership as a whole, while I'm passionate about it, is because I've seen the long term effects of it. I've worked
Mhm.
for one person, and he was a servant leader without saying he was a servant leader. He worked with very strong personalities, and he was able to get the best out of all of us and
Like honing
collect,
it all in
just
and
honing it
just
all.
collecting all those, yeah.
Great listener, great confidant, didn't take sides, and he worked to the greater good. He was very consistent, high values, high integrity, and wasn't the loudest person in the room, but when he spoke, everyone listened.
Everybody listened. He had something to say, and it was very meaningful.
And the long-term effects of people like me, they're like, wow, that's the kind of leader I want to be. He was developing leaders without saying, hey, I'm developing you.
Without saying it, yeah.
And then people carry those traits on to other organizations. And I think that's powerful when you're able to really influence an organization and change people in terms of how they lead.
Mhm.
And he was that kind of leader. And I said, wow, I want to model after that person, who I have a lot of respect for as a leader. And I watched him not just in our interaction, but with the other body of the organization, always consistent, didn't matter the title.
And
And
have you saw, like, transformations from his leadership style just amongst other
yes,
people?
I
And
did.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, that's incredible. And when you can see that, you're like, "All right,
Absolutely.
I wanna be like that person."
Right. There'll be good days and bad days. Sometimes he would say, it's a dandy day, but you saw all sides of the work style, and so you saw the authenticity, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is really the takeaway is when somebody can come as their authentic self and there's no act, that's just really
Yes,
their that's them to the core,
absolutely.
and they don't have to put on a show, they're not faking it, it's just them,
It's
and
just
so
them.
just
Right.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. All right. So, you talk about, also, you've led initiatives that span multiple generations, right? What's your secret to building unity and motivation across really a wide range of perspectives?
Yeah. So here's what I would say about that.
Mhm.
I won't say that there's one way. There's one way, but I do think that there are key ingredients that help that effort to be successful. And it can't just be one person. It can't just be me.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
must be a collective group. So if I'm interacting with five folks and there's resistance in the group, it will be hard to kind of navigate that. So
Mhm.
you have to have willing participants. And
Right.
what my experience has shown is that even the best intentions will never be seen if people are not engaged to be part of that transformation, right? So if there are other efforts or agendas at play, you just won't be able to do it,
Right,
right?
right, right. Yeah.
However, what I've seen foundationally where there is success is where there is curiosity and agility. Curiosity creates the best, I think, collision of conversation possible.
Wanting to just gain more and more
Just
and
yeah,
more.
just right,
Yes.
right.
Yeah, just like
And
a big knowledge dump.
absolutely,
Yes.
I've seen the best ideas come out of. I call them conversation collisions because that's really what it. You're just bringing all this stuff in,
Yeah.
and everyone's highlighting what they think and what they feel, and they're trying to sell. And so it's great because you're literally vibing vibing within an environment of ideas or trying to get to an end idea. And then I would say agility. What do you do with all of that?
Mhm.
Um, and especially in organizations today that are so fast paced, agility is so important. Being able to adapt and connect in. There are some people can manage changes and some can't. And not one is not right, one is not wrong. It's just how do you support people where they are, so you,
Right.
so
Oh,
you
yeah.
so you can get them to where where they need to be, and it's just a different pace sometimes.
Right, and how are they gonna thrive
Hmm.
in that setting,
Right.
right? And how do you feel about as well, um, obviously leadership style, somebody has a leadership style, right? But it doesn't work for everybody. So
Yeah.
that really is kind of piggybacking from what you just shared is that it's the same, it's like they have to perform, right? But in order to get them to be their best selves and perform, you may not manage them or speak to them or whatever it is the way you would the next person. So
Right.
how do you find that to be like how do you learn? Like how do you feel like just to getting to know your people, right? And
Right.
because not everybody you have, teams that or staff or employees that hold back, right? Maybe
Right.
they're
Right.
maybe a little more shy or maybe
Yeah.
they're just not as outspoken. So are you saying that I mean, especially now in a remote world.
Hmm. 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 And sometimes it's hard, right? Sometimes it's hard because not every leader is for every person. I've had to
Oh,
learn
that's so
that.
true.
You know, um, and meeting people where they are. There are some leadership styles that are tempered and paced that work well, and then there are some people just want it 1, 2, 3, just give it to me.
Right, right. Yep.
And
Yeah.
then you have those. Let's talk about my weekend. Let me tell you what I did. Then you talk about work. So
Right, right, right. So you get to know your people, right? And how we can get the best out of them in order to set them up for
for
the
success.
best performance, yeah, and success for sure.
I
Yeah.
think that's actually key because I think the workplace today there it's layered, right? So you have the work itself, then you have social issues, right?
Mhm.
Right? And then you have life happens. So you have all these combination of things, whereas before they weren't talked about in the workplace. Whereas today, it's a blend, community and company blends, right?
That's
And
right. Yeah.
so it makes it a different interaction. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think definitely employers and leaders are getting to know their team more on a personal level now more than ever before. And I think that's almost, is it to be expected? It just happens. People are just sharing more. I don't know if a lot of that comes from social media, just the world we live in, the technology, but yeah, it's back, you know, 20, 30 years ago. Like
Yeah.
they didn't know anything. Maybe they knew if you were married or you had children, and that's about it.
Yeah. Well, I think social media has heightened that as well, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
everyone lives out loud. Live whether it's on Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is. But I think too, just with the way that life happens, and I worked with someone that lost their parents and inherited their siblings, and so now they're managing a family they never had. So they went from being, empty, no kids to having three and working and trying to manage and juggle and great employees, right? And so the companies are having to examine and make sure that they have the right systems in place for employees to be able to still contribute and manage life as it's happening.
Right, right, right. And, especially with you have a strong background in, say, HR,
Mhm.
I mean, you've probably seen just this grow and grow and grow over the years, right? The differences from, say, even 10 years ago to what it is today.
Right, right,
Yeah, wow.
right,
So, yeah, the culture of companies, I'm sure it's almost feels like that's like you've studied it without really studying it because it's just been a part of,
right.
your work, your profession for so many years.
Exactly.
Yeah, wow. So, another question that I think is definitely is going to be really well asked. What advice would you give to women who feel stuck in a job or a culture that doesn't align with their values?
Mhm. I would say strive to be in a place where you can be your best and do your best work. Because when you show up, it kind of goes back to what I said before. When you show up,
Mhm.
you can't give 100% of who you are. Eventually, it chips and takes away from everything that you can bring to the table.
Right.
And so, everybody wants to show up and do 100% and give 100%. And to do that, you have to have the right conditions, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And,
And
and
of course, yeah, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
and oftentimes, especially women, I hear, sometimes I cringe, but it's hard, right? I hear it often. Well, they want me to tone it down, but this person can say it that way, and it's okay, right?
The
Or
whole comparison trap, right?
the comparison trap, right?
Mhm.
Why can't I be decisive? Why is it not? And so, I think in establishing, what it means to you to be able to bring your full self to the organization is very important.
Yeah, for
And I,
sure.
and I think that's something that people have to soul search, right? Either, you stay, it chips away, and you're okay with that, or you stay and until you figure out how you want to exert that. But I always encourage everyone, just show up who you are. And
That's right, yeah. Show up who you are, do the best you can do, perform,
that's right.
and obviously, people have a job, they have to do the job and they have to be good at their job and all that. That's
Yeah,
a no-brainer, but also, you have to also be your authentic self,
yeah,
right? And
absolutely.
especially in 2025, it's just like, at the end of the day, if it's just not working for you,
Hmm. Yeah.
quit. I mean, that's, I mean,
Life is short. Life.
yes, do something that you
And
love.
I would say too, have an air of reflection. Have an air of reflection, right?
Yeah,
um because sometimes it's the wrong combination of energy. Sometimes it's misunderstandings. It can be multiple things. um and make sure you have a good support system, mentors in place. I always say, it's really interesting. I don't remember who said it, but women supporting women, I think it's so important,
oh,
right?
it's crucial.
It's
Rather than being in such competition all the time, let's
right.
support one another. Let's hear one another out. Let's uplift each other. I think it's so important.
I have had amazing women mentors, and
Yeah.
it's good where you have a safe place to have conversations and gain insights and wisdom from other women leaders that are wanting to see you win. I think that just helps our entire ecosystem win.
I agree. And I think mentorship is just, I think it's just so crucial
Yeah,
to on many levels. I mean, even the best of the mentors, they have mentors,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So having somebody that you can really learn from, be yourself and admire,
Yeah,
yeah, it really puts everything into perspective for sure.
for sure.
Um, So, the next question I have for you is obviously our show here is called She Decides. Was there a defining moment in your own journey where you chose to step into your full power as a leader and a change maker? Like anything that sticks out that just defines like this is who I am, this is what I'm going to do and here
You
I
know,
go.
I would say when I was at Harpo, just because there was just so many strong women there, and watching them all walk in, their true essence of who they are, it's just freeing, right?
And how long were you there for? And how was that there? How cool is that?
Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing. You have this collective body of intellect from all over the world, and everybody there to serve, the same mission, and have passion around that, and pushing each other to do better, be stronger. Um, it's an amazing feeling. It's an amazing
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah, I
So
bet.
um, I was very honored to be there and work with amazing folks. I would say I'm going to Disneyland. I would say where I would call work Disneyland because you for a while I think my kids thought I really worked at Disneyland, but uh,
They're like, "Mom, when are we gonna go to Disneyland?" As they were
I mean,
growing up.
great. It was just great. The energy, the people, and very creative um, environment, and the focus on excellence, and showing up every day to give your best, do your best, and wanting to do that. So I would say that I learned a lot. I grew a lot, and I think that uh, it allowed me to kind of grow into a space or place I don't think a corporate setting would allow to happen.
Well, I think that, our experiences in life, right? We take little pieces of our experiences and hopefully we use it for the good, right? Or a learning experience, right? Whether we're like, we're not going to do that again, right? But yeah, and really just shapes us to, really being our best selves
Absolutely.
and having passion for the zest of whatever the profession is or life or whatever, right? And like you were saying earlier, just like the agility and just really being hungry for
Right.
just for information and utilizing that for
Absolutely.
sure.
Listen, in my 40s, I went back to school to get my MBA. In my 50s, I went back to school to get a PhD. We're always learning,
We're always learning.
always
Yes.
learning, right? And so you just never, don't turn that valve off. You always seek to learn something new, different every day. And, um, I think that just that space of curiosity itself allows you to connect with different environments a lot easier.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. And I mean, yourself being such a wonderful role model for your daughters, what what are they like in terms of what do they share about like just you as their mother? Like they see you as a different, right? I mean, you're a strong, empowering and super successful author, and
I'm
you're just they're like, yeah, you're just mom.
I don't get those accolades. Let me be very clear.
Yeah, you don't get those accolades from the kids.
Just the mom. So, um, that's just,
But what an amazing role model, right, for
well,
your
thank you.
daughters.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
literally send them my clips and they're like, oh, okay. Well, and whereas I'll,
Well, but they're proud. They're proud of their mom.
so,
I'm
yeah,
sure they're bragging you up to other people.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm proud of them. Very proud of them.
Oh, that's amazing. So I love to share some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So
Let's
so
go.
yeah, these are fun. So
Okay.
you know, always excited and we're super interested to hear the guest your answers. And I always think I know what you're gonna, what, because it's always at the end, right? So I'm like,
Right.
oh, all right, I know what she's gonna say, and then all of a sudden it's totally not. So these are so fun. All right, so the first one here is, what's your go-to guilty pleasure TV show or movie after a long day of leadership and leading?
I don't know if this, well, so there's a couple of, but Handmaid's Tale is like fascinating to me.
Oh, so I would have not guessed that one. Oh, that's great. All right, the second one. What's a leadership book you always recommend? Besides your own, of course.
Good to Great.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. All right, what daily habit, just one of them, of your daily habit that keeps you grounded?
Meditation and praying.
Oh, I've been hearing that a lot lately. A lot lately. I think we all live in such a busy and complex world. I think we need that, right? And I think it's so easy not to do it, but that's a great. So you do that every day, huh? That's
Yeah,
a good
my
daily
faith
habit.
grounds me. So if it's not my faith, it's my kids.
One of them, one or the other, right? Oh, that's great. All right. So are you introvert or extrovert? And what fuels your leadership style?
More of an introvert, and what fuels my leadership style is watching people succeed. So it's nothing. It's so exciting. Like when someone is hired, it's like, wow, I was part of that hire, and then you see them grow, 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 and evolve, evolve. I always run into folks that I met years ago. I was like, you remember you hired me? Like I did. Okay. Well, what are you doing now? And you see their success.
And they're just killing it, right? And
You
they're
just
just doing
know it's like,
amazing.
wow. Or even that person that didn't know and you didn't know, and then you look up 5 years later and they're just in an amazing place, and you're like, wow, they did it. That excites me. That
Right. That's great. Yeah. I'm a big advocate too for like rooting for the underdog. I
yeah.
love to see people succeed as well. I love it.
Yeah, I have zero patience for people that tear people down. I have zero
Oh,
patience for that.
yeah,
Um,
same.
However, I like to celebrate those that want to be celebrated, and I really be part of that movement.
There was a quote, and I will botch it for sure, but it was, this reminds me of, and I saw it actually. She was being interviewed, Taylor Swift, at one time, and she said she feels the worst people are the people who make people feel bad for being excited about something,
Absolutely,
something along that line. And that is so true.
absolutely, absolutely, and it's hard because it damages. I've seen it just be really damaging, and so I think hurt people, not all the time,
Hmm.
but I just that's just something I just don't want in my space. And
Yeah, I agree with that. And I love that.
you can always
I
find
agree.
something positive to say about someone. You can always find something positive in a situation, um, if you choose.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I've always told my children growing up, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. Especially if you're going to hurt somebody's feelings.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. This is a fun one. What's your walk-up song if you were entering a packed stadium?
Oh wow. What's on my playlist is God Only Knows. I
Oh,
love that song. That's my wake up song. That is my
that's motivational, and that's a
God
good
Only
one.
Knows. Yeah.
Crank that up.
I know it's a little bit country, but I love that song. Um,
Oh, that's a
yeah,
good one.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's like in my number 5 in my
That's
playlist.
your top 5 playlist.
That is
Yeah. So
definitely
that would be a good walk-up song for you then.
yes.
All right. The next fun one is, if you weren't doing this work, what would you be doing instead? Completely out of this whole, the leadership, the HR, what would you be doing instead?
I would own a chain of bookstores.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. That's a good one.
Mhm.
Especially coming from a best-selling author.
Well, I just think this was just something. I've always been a geek nerd, and you don't have to be a geek nerd, but I've always been interested in books, readings, different stories, and just escaping through words.
Like diving in and just
Diving
learning
in,
and
and I
yeah.
think that is the best gift you can give kids is a book,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because a book doesn't have limitations. It's just
Right, right.
it
It's a
doesn't have
story, and it lets your mind do what your mind needs to do or wants to do.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great way to explain that for sure. All right. So, this is another good one. 3 words that describe the legacy that you're building.
Wow. So I think about this I
That's
think about
powerful.
legacy. It's very powerful. I think about legacy a lot, especially at 58. But 3 words, I would say, um, humbled, um, grateful, and determined.
Ooh, yeah, those are good, and if you use all 3 of those, you definitely know you're gonna be building a pretty strong legacy.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah,
have to. Yeah.
yeah, those are good ones too. So, all right, your last and final. If we opened your bag right now, what's one totally random thing we'd find?
Oh, well, definitely my lipstick. A pen and I always keep a journal. I love to
Oh,
journal.
your journal, okay.
You definitely find a journal in there. Um, you definitely will find my bag to be very organized. And there's there's always an almond joy. I mean, it's just my guilty pleasure.
I love almond joys.
Too, obviously. and so, and there's always almond joy or Cheetos. There's I don't know why I have to have both of those in my bag, but they
You gotta
somehow,
make sure you eat that almond joy before it melts.
but it's always in my bag.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I love almond joy. I haven't had one in a while though. So now it's like, yeah, maybe
Yeah.
I need to go stop and get one on my way home from the
It
office.
just makes my day. I don't know why. It's like I'm in the store. I just pick, and I just do it. I just pick up an almond joy. Like, oh,
There's something with that coconut, something with the nut,
I
it's
don't
good
know. I don't know.
stuff.
I don't know. Whoever invented that, or whoever,
But they're genius.
genius.
I love it. I love it. All right. So, we're done with the rapid fire questions, but more on a serious note, what is one piece of advice that you would give to a woman who is kind of at her wits end,
Mhm.
kind of hanging on there, hanging on by a thread, who really wants to say start her own company and she's just hitting wall after wall after wall. What's one piece of advice you would give to a woman?
First of all, don't give up. Don't give up. Two, if she doesn't have a plan, put a plan in place. And then three, she needs to identify her tribe.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I think
that's a
that's
strong one.
that's just so important. One of the best tribes that I've seen so far, I don't know if you heard of entrepreneuristas, but
Mhm.
I love that model. And
Yes.
it doesn't have to be that, but I do like their model. But I think having that tribe around you is so important to either bounce ideas off of, have a bad day, complexities. And sometimes it helps to talk that out and get it out of your head. So
Right.
find a safe place to do that. Identify the right circle. If you don't have the circle, you'll be surprised. People are so willing to help. You'll be surprised. And I literally
For
can't,
sure.
when I read an article or I'm intrigued by a person, I want to meet them. I will reach out and say, hi, I will introduce, some people respond, but you'll be surprised. Most people do respond. I think
Well,
they,
I mean,
yes.
we reached out to you because I mean, it's just like, yeah, and you responded and here we are, right?
And
You
here we
just
are.
never know. You
And so
never
there
know.
are so many people that really want to help and be part of the conversation. I think women have just such a strong power to connect anyway. And when we
Mhm.
use that for good, we do amazing things that no one else can do. Right. But
I agree.
I
Yeah.
would definitely say don't give up. Find, and it's easy to kind of just feel deflated. And I hear it a lot from women. It's like, wow, it, just tired, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I would
Well,
say,
we give so much of ourselves,
yeah,
to others, and then we forget to really take care of ourselves, right? So we can be our best to
yes,
give to others, right? And there's a sense of, I feel, guilt that we have to take care of everything and everybody,
right.
and it's just exhausting, right?
So I
Yeah.
would say don't give up.
Don't give up. Yeah.
Don't give up, and find the right village that will. help you. Or if you're trying to, you mentioned start a business, identify others that are in the business, thriving, doing a good job, so you can learn from them and connect into their network as well.
Yeah, I think that's great advice too, because you just never know. I mean, who could become your next mentor, right? And happy to help, right? We don't have to be in competition with one another, right? There's enough to go around, right? And we can, uplift others and just be a source of support and strength for those. And then, yeah.
Strong women help women.
They really do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Strong
Yes, we
women.
do. Yes, we
Yeah.
do. And really being around people that will bring out the best self in you, right? And they can be true to you too. Like they can say, "Hey, I think you need to,
Yeah.
maybe look at this a little differently," right? Kind of get you back on path,
Yeah.
right? So,
Absolutely.
well, thank you so much again, Dr.
You.
Davis. You've been amazing, and your calmness and just your real life just support for others is, it's so needed, and it's just so greatly appreciated. And I know you're so busy, so we really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today. Um,
Thank you.
and thank you again. You've been amazing to talk to.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course, of course. And I think